Okay, here is a small presentation on GMAT sentence correction. And this is especially appropriate for those who have already started preparing for the GMAT. And now one of the things that we see in the GMAT sentence correction is a host of error types that the test makers test us for. Is it possible for us to prepare for all these? I would say emphatically yes. Now the common error types, the agreement between noun, pronoun, the subject verb, the tense usage, the modifiers, all that are very relevant. So are some complex error types. It is not because of the complexity of the sentence that I would say these errors are complex, but because they are very subtle, very difficult to identify, because in most cases the sentence would appear to be correct as we use them in our everyday usage. Now let's take a look at one of the error types as ambiguity errors. What are they? Now let's study the two sentences. Okay, the first one, the modified version is in red. The need for water management rises not from its scarcity but from the increasing industrial demand. If you're preparing for the sentence correction, you have already learned how to identify the subject, the verb, and things like that, which is the very basic thing that you have to do when you study a sentence. Here, we are referring to the need for, let's say, water management. So the subject of the sentence is need, and then we have the verb as arises. The need arises. So we have singular subject need and arises singular verb. Not from its scarcity. Now do you see one pronoun here? And you as the GMATer is comfortable with the usage of pronouns, aren't you? Now this says its scarcity. So you would now have to follow, I think you've learned from many books and forums and your instructors that a pronoun should agree with the noun. So if a pronoun has to agree with the noun, what does it refer to? According to the sentence, the structure of the sentence, it refers to need. But read the sentence and by meaning we infer that we are referring here to the scarcity of water. But have we used the word water in the sentence? Let me warn you, because of the word water management used here when we say water management, the important word here is management and not water. So if you consider it's here, there are two words preceding it. One is need, one is water management. But we know that it doesn't refer to either of these words. It should refer to water, and that word is not given here. So now look at the restructured sentence. The need for water management arises not from water scarcity but from the increasing industrial demand. Now don't you think this sentence is less ambiguous, more precise, and it has no unclear pronoun used? Okay, here is another sentence. Here we've used misleading it. Now the government's response to the media expose suggests that it is concerned more about the media's breach of security than about the substance of the expose. Now we have a pronoun it in the sentence. Suggests that. Now the government's response is the subject. Okay. And if you are telling to the media expose suggests that it is concerned, it would refer to here a response. Alright. You would think by meaning it refers to, let's say, government. But we haven't used the word government here. We've used the word response. So it is concerned more about the media's breach of security than about the substance of expose. What is concerned, by sentence construction it would mean response, but by speaking we are meaning the government is more concerned. Alright, so this is misleading. Alright, so if you are using response as a subject, you cannot use it to mean anything other than the response. So look at the sentence modified here. The government's response to the media expose suggests that the government is concerned more about something than about something. Now don't you think this is so very clear, and we have not left an ambiguous pronoun in the sentence? Yes, this is more clear. So I'm sure you are all now getting the use of ambiguity in sentence correction questions in the GMAT. Watch out for these. Okay, now we have one more interesting sentence. This I have tweaked from one of the GMAT original questions from the official guide. It's the purpose of using this is to demonstrate to you one such construction. Anxious to balance its population of 1 million women and 8 million men, the Wyoming legislature extended voting rights to women. Now, you know that the sentence doesn't here begin with a subject and a verb. The subject of the sentence is the Wyoming legislature. Yes, you understood it right. It is the Wyoming legislature. So, it is possible for you to use a pronoun before a noun is introduced. There is no harm. But here, when we refer to its population, so we can say here a modifying phrase, anxious to balance its population. Now, who is anxious to balance its population? According to sentence construction, it is the Wyoming legislature. But by meaning, can Wyoming legislature have a population of 1 million women and 8 million men? No. Here, if you just merely go by the grammarian's rules, Wyoming legislature is singular, it's a singular, you may think it agrees. But do not ignore meaning in sentences. When you are in a hurry to identify the grammatical errors, do not ignore the meanings. So here its population would mean the Wyoming legislature's population. You must understand that it's not possible for Wyoming legislature's population. It is to do with the state's population. So that is why by making a correction here in the sentence, by introducing the word states, you are removing the ambiguity. So what is the legislature doing? It is trying to balance the state's population. Now, this is an excellent example of how misleading pronouns can just simply, make a sentence ambiguous. There is more to sentence correction than it and its. Let's take a look at a few more. All right. Now, moving on to the next error type, when it comes to misleading representations, it's a use of which. I think we have been exposed to this in quite a few learning websites and forums, but there is no harm in taking you through a couple of more sentences to understand this better. Now, which is also a pronoun. We say the books which I gave you, the items which we bought from the shop. So, which is also a pronoun. Sometimes, which is used misleadingly. Now, this example sentence is something that takes you through very clearly what a misleading representation is. Now, which is supposed to agree with the word that precedes immediately. So if that is the rule, then enron is the word for which should stand. But read the sentence forward. Does it mean Enron would involve a stock swap and a $1.5 billion capital infusion from Texaco? No. So what would involve the stock swap is the deal. But the word that precedes which is Enron. So this can mislead. We should not use which a pronoun, a relative pronoun, which is preceded by many words, and it refers to one of the words and not necessarily the one that comes just before it. In such cases, what should you do? You must look out for an option wherein which is replaced by the word itself. Now, we know it is the deal that we are referring to. So by placing the word deal, NMAX is in talks for a deal to buy Enron, a deal that would involve a stock swap and a 1.5, etc., makes the sentence more clear. Okay. You have one more here. Now, let's study the sentence. There is no point in disputing the hypothesis that most developing countries have been marginalized in world trade negotiations, which is considered valid by many analysts. Now, we have another which here, which, as we were discussing earlier, here should be actually attributing the world trade negotiations. But is world trade negotiations considered valid by many analysts? What is considered valid by many analysts is the hypothesis. Alright? So, there is no meaning in keeping such a sentence wherein which refers to a word somewhere mentioned in the sentence and something else is placed closer. So the best way to again correct the sentence is to replace which by repeating the word. Now let me tell you, this is not redundancy. You can always repeat a word. If not repeating the word would lead to misleading, ambiguous representation. So there is no point in disputing the hypothesis that most developing countries have been marginalized in world trade negotiations. A hypothesis considered valid by many analysts. A sentence cannot become more better than this. So ensure that ambiguous usages are eliminated and the sentence points very correctly towards a particular idea, and that idea is presented very clearly. Let's study one more sentence. The forest officials discussed ways to prevent fires, which would be devastating to it. By now, I don't have to tell you that which here refers to forest fires. Which would be devastating to it. But no problem here, since ways to prevent fires which would be devastating, which definitely here agrees with fire, so there is no harm in keeping which here. But every time you see a which, you shouldn't think that there is an error. In this context, preventing fires which would be devastating is perfectly alright. But the problem here is to do with, so the which is correct, the problem here is to do with the pronoun it. Devastating to it. Now we have to infer from the meaning of the sentence that this refers to devastating to the forest. But we have started the sentence with the word forest officials. So the subject here is forest officials. So it would not refer to forest officials. It should refer to forest, which is a word not used. So look at the correct sentence. The forest officials discussed ways to prevent fires, which, that means the fires would be devastating to the forest. That makes the sentence more clear. Alright? Okay, now we have one more sentence here, though we've just been discussing it, which, etc. At times, you can see that some errors that simply escape our attention. Now study the sentence. Although the term corner office sounds fanciful, it is simply the office cabin of the CEO. Now, do you see here a sentence wherein a pronoun it is used, okay, to mean a noun? Here, of course, you must understand from the construction that the term corner office, when you refer to, the subject here is the term. So what sounds, you can also go by the meaning. What sounds fanciful is the term. So it would refer to the term. But can we say the term is simply the office cabin? No. So when you have constructions like the term corner office, then you must know it is the term that we are referring to. So it is simply the office cabin would refer to the term, which is wrong. A correct construction would be, although the term corner office sounds fanciful, it simply refers to. That means the term refers to. So here it refers to would mean the term refers to. So we are making a different error rectification here. We are telling it refers to, we are using the pronoun it to mean the term. But by changing the construction and introducing a word, it simply refers to, you are naturally referring to the term, referring to the office cabin of the CEO. You've just seen a few constructions where, some small words, here the pronouns, which it's, that, etc. can actually mislead. So when it comes to GMAT sentence correction, do watch out for such tiny words that can make the sentence ambiguous. Show attention to detail. This is how you can make immense progress in your preparation. Take sentences from any source, study them closely and see if the sentence has it, its, which, that, who, whose, etc. They refer to the respective nouns, or make appropriate changes in the construction to ensure that the sentence is less ambiguous. Now these sentences are a little more complex than what we've just discussed, but we only refer to the errors in the sentence. The rest of the sentence in terms of its construction, how it begins, etc. we haven't referred to because the focus has not been on to that. Okay. I shall come back to you with a little more on sentence correction shortly. Till then, you can keep learning. And thank you for listening. You can also send your responses to my email ID to Semantics, yourmentor@semanticslearning.com. Thank you. Happy learning.